Hello, Kathrin Hutson here. I've finally gotten back into my live videos on Facebook and my review giveaways. So I am changing this up. Now I am going through George R. R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series, which is so exciting. So I'm reviewing book one of that today, Game of Thrones, book one by George R. R. Martin. You see, I've got the HBO series was made, so I started reading this first book. Well, I'll get into that later. So basically, if you leave a comment on any of these videos as part of this review giveaway series, you will win this actual book in my hand. I will send it to you. It's been read many times. I don't know if you can see the cracked spine a little bit, and might have gotten wet at some point. But you get this copy and also a signed copy of the first book in my dark fantasy duology, Gyenona Children. This is Daughter of the Drackan. I will sign this for you and send it right to your door, plus this book with it together. So every week there is a new winner selected randomly from all of the people who comment on these videos. Let me know what you think. Let me know your opinions. I'll get right into this review. So what I was starting to say before is that the Game of Thrones book one came out in '99. And I started reading it in 2010, so a year before the HBO series started. And I consider myself perhaps one of those traditionalists who I love Game of Thrones, the show. I absolutely love it. I've enjoyed every bit of it, except for the first season when I was really getting over the issues I had about them changing things from the book, which is always going to happen. I had to eat it basically and quit talking about it while I was watching the show. But I had pretty much given up on reading fantasy as a genre for a long time because it all started to sound exactly the same to me. I was only being exposed to or finding what felt like the same story over and over and over. And so I said, okay, I'm done with fantasy. There's just nothing new, nothing good. And I started reading everything else. And then I had someone actually who reads everything in almost every genre, just like I do, recommend Game of Thrones to me and said it was fantastic and I had to start reading it. So I gave it a shot. And I actually read her copy of this book first, and then I went out and bought myself this one. And I enjoy smaller books, so I got the mass market paperback with the HBO little thing on the top. Whatever. When I started reading Game of Thrones, I was immediately drawn in by Martin's writing style, which felt to me, and the only way I could describe it, reading his work feels like silk. It's the best way I could say it, but I was so impressed and so immediately drawn into his writing style and the world that he created that I opened up to giving the fantasy genre, even though I was still writing it, to reading fantasy genre another try. And I have since found so many more amazing books just through working a little harder to find things that are what I like and that were good and that were different and out there and definitely not repetitive like I had been reading. So this book opens in the prologue with introducing the White Walkers and Beyond the Wall, and the men who are at the wall, and it's like this kind of really creepy introduction into this sort of strange, odd, magical horror thing that's coming, and then we don't really see it again much at all through the rest of the first book, which I really liked. And I love the fact that this world that Martin created for the series has so much politics in it and so much intrigue and deception and so many different characters and so many different environments, and magic isn't really a thing, right? We get to the dragons eventually with Daenerys further on in this book, but by that point, by this point when we start, the dragons are gone, the magic is gone, there's not really anything moving this world forward as super incredible fantasy at this point. Of course, we do see the Stark children finding the dire wolves, and each of them has one, and it's the emblem of their house, which is great. and setting up, the fact that these things that are not supposed to be coming south of the wall are actually existing south of the wall. I loved the fact that the Stark kids all had their own wolf to raise and train. Wolves are my favorite animal. I'm gonna slip that personal detail in there. So I love that part. I thought that was awesome. And so we follow the first big issue that comes along, which is when Jon Arryn dies, and actually he ends up having been murdered, which I didn't catch. That it was a little difficult for me to stay focused on who was whom and who did what and how they were all connected, and I didn't quite get where Ned Stark's why his investigation into Jon Arryn's death started. I didn't understand the connection between the characters and why this was such a big deal. So it took me, I have read this series 3 times. It took me the second go around to understand what was happening, obviously, because I'd already read it. So we're introduced to the Starks, and we're introduced to the Lannisters, who are ruling. Robert Baratheon is still alive. We're introduced to the king of the 7 kingdoms and who sits on the throne and all the different lands. And then, we follow Daenerys when she's essentially being sold as a bride to the Dothraki. And then we do get a hint of magic in there when Daenerys she's trying to save oh my gosh, her Dothraki husband's life. I can't even think of his name right now. I can't believe that. You'll have to remind me. I'm totally spacing it on this, and he's such a badass. How could I forget his name? And when she's trying to save his life, and the healer uses this weird odd magic that we don't completely see to save his life, essentially. And I don't want to spoil anything. But I love that magic part only came in at the end. And of course, it's always super badass that Drogo is his name. There we go. I got it. It's always super badass that there's a chick who can't be burned by fire, and she ends up hatching 3 dragons. So that's the best part. And if anyone has read any of my books or seen any of them, well, at least Gyeona's children and this daughter of the Drackan right here, you will know that I do enjoy dragons, and I have put somewhat of a different spin on them in my own way. They are nothing like the Song of Ice and Fire dragons that Daenerys has, but I love it. So I am giving the first book in the series 8 out of 10, mostly because I did find it difficult to get into all the immediate characters presented in the beginning. And I got a little confused, which doesn't happen to me very often. But I couldn't not keep going with the book because it's written so incredibly well, and I'm absolutely in love with Martin's writing style. So there's my review of this first book. I'm so glad to be back doing these review giveaways and doing these live videos, and I've got a really bouncy screen right now. And I can't wait to see what you guys have to say about the series overall. Let's get some discussion started. I love it. And I will have you know that I am trying to stay away from the actual TV series as much as possible. I'm just focusing on the books right now, even though I love the series. And yes, I am watching it as it comes out currently with the last season. I can't say how upset I am that the book series hasn't been finished yet. We won't even go there. So leave your comment below here, there, sideways, anywhere where you, and then you enter a chance to win my actual copy of Game of Thrones and a signed copy of Daughter of the Drackan by me, and I will ship them both to you. Next week, I will reveal the randomly selected winner, and then I will also record my review of the next book in the series. So thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching. Can't wait to hear your thoughts. Bye.